Happy holidays, everyone. I'm sure for some of you, you may be saying, bah humbug. And for others of you, you may be saying, hooray, it's holiday time. And then some go, well, I don't celebrate that at all. What do I care? It's just a big mess that happens during this year. I wanted to share with you a video on a holiday theme because I think it brings up a lot of emotional issues for a lot of people. People can be very cut off about the holidays. They can be very enmeshed with the holidays. I truly find that the holidays are a time for many people, a time in which it is an emotional minefield. And I think for some obvious reasons. Because when you add all of the components of the holidays, you can see why we can really get off balance during the holidays. And learning how to stabilize ourselves can be really important. Back in the early 90s, I wrote an article. I was, for many years, a pastor and a priest and a family counselor for inpatient chemical dependency and worked with families and drug addiction and alcohol addiction. And for many of those families, holidays was not a good time. Lots of problems, lots of difficulties. And I remember writing an article, and I wanted to share a little bit of that article with you today in this video. So first of all, the holidays are an emotional minefield for many people, and to differing degrees. When you add family of origin, because often holidays means families, when you add expectations, when you add Madison Avenue expectations, when you add fantasies of what we hope to have happen, when you add past hurts or disappointments or pain, and then you add the stress of the overload of the many activities during holiday time, we now are set up for an emotional minefield in which we can step one way or step another and a bomb can go off. And we can find ourselves in a real spiral, either spiraling down into depression, spiraling with anxiety, spiraling with guilt. There are lots of problems that can occur. And I realize that for some people, holidays may be a nice time for them and it works out well. For a lot of people, it really does create this minefield of a problem. When I wrote the article back in the 1990s, I talked about the 4 Ds. And it was the 4 Ds of the holiday time. And the first D was disappointments. The second is dysfunction. The third was depression. And the fourth was destabilization. And these are all 4 things I want you to look out for this holiday. In terms of disappointments, I think you can kind of understand that a little bit from the standpoint of our Madison Avenue view of the holidays or Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever holiday you celebrate during the winter. The expectations are very high for what it's supposed to be like. Whether it's the Norman Rockwell view of the holidays, we have the holiday in which mom and dad are trimming the tree and the 2 children are in their pajamas helping, a sleigh ride to grandma's house, fireplace glowing, a 30-pound turkey, and a large family gathering around the table with grandpa carving the meat, and hugs all around, and a partridge in a pear tree. The Norman Rockwell, Leave It to Beaver holidays is for many people what they had hoped for, what they had hoped would happen during the season. And what they find every year is it falls way short of the Norman Rockwell Christmas or the fantasy that we believe should be happening at our holiday time. And we can have lots of emotional reactions to that. Because often our expectations are very high for what the holiday should be, ought to be. I think for women, there's a very strong and high expectation of them to perform in heroic ways during the holidays, buying all the Christmas, working a full-time job, cooking the meals, getting everybody ready, wrapping the gifts, and over-functioning in a very big way, and also making this perfect holiday happen for their families. And when that doesn't happen, I hear a lot of women talk about guilt and feeling as though they feel a sense of failure during the holidays. And for men, there may be a financial obligation or burden which they feel they have fallen short of, and they can't buy the Christmas they feel they ought to provide for their family. They may just disconnect from the holidays altogether. They may find it not a very enjoyable time for them. Also, if marriages have some conflict or struggles, then that can come into the holiday times as well, because now we have a highly charged environment. Well, if we already have some difficulty or problems, this is only going to make it's only going to turn the Bunsen burner up higher. The fire is going to go a little hotter during the holidays. And for us to be aware of that, we can do something about changing that. And for many of us, we may have learned Christmas and disappointment may go together. So we need to watch out for our disappointments, and we need to have realistic expectations about the holiday. And I think, in my mind, simplifying them in a very, very important way. Rather than having that Norman Rockwell Christmas, begin to have something simple that we can accomplish so that we can say we enjoyed that part of the holidays. And that was something that I chose and that I planned, and we accomplished that. Now, there may be a whole bunch of other stuff that goes on, but at least we have simplified what we expect the holidays to be. In terms of dysfunction, I think we need to be aware that this is a time when we need to kind of maybe set our problems on the shelf, whether for our family of origin or for our marriage. This is not the time to sort out all those problems. There's already enough stress, busyness, scheduling, financial issues. This is not a time to press in harder with the problems. It's actually a time to just set those aside and say, hey, we can look at those after the holidays. We can talk about that after the holidays. Let's put that up on the shelf and try to enjoy our time together as much as we can. And just because I put it on the holidays, just because I put those problems on the shelf doesn't mean they don't matter. It's just that I can table them until we're in a better place to maybe be able to have more energy and not another focus that's going on. Because you don't want to be having great big arguments on the way to grandma's house and then great big arguments on the way back on issues that happened back in July. That seems a rather foolish plan. So we really need to bring down the expectations, simplify our holiday, set the problems aside. We can always come back to those. And I tell couples, there's a time to work on problems and there's a time not to. And I think a lot of couples think a time to work on problems is 24/7. No, there needs to be a time where we don't. And we just kind of are with each other. And we are just able to put those on the shelf so that we can just be with one another for this time and enjoy it the best that we can. So we have the 2 Ds of disappointment and dysfunction. Then we have depression. And depression can happen. I think you've heard of SAD, which is seasonal affective disorder. I think of HAD, which is holiday affective disorder, in which people become depressed or their mood shifts, it goes down, or they either get a significant amount of anxiety or they may get depressed and feel down because of all of the expectations that occur during this time. They feel more a sense of maybe failure or falling short, whether financially, whether in expectations, or they feel pushed or pulled by family of origin expectations, pushed or pulled by kids, by spouses, and it really can throw us into a depression spiral. So we want to be very careful about not heaping on more stress during this holiday time and making sure we find time for ourselves. We find and plan things that we can enjoy and that we look forward to, even if they're simple or very small things. You can make your holiday time a better time. And I think also in past holidays there's been anger, resentment, cutoff that have happened within families, and that can also produce anger, feeling of powerlessness. And where there's anger and powerlessness, then you've got depression that's going to happen. You also may want to plan on getting in to talk to someone after the holidays. That can also feel better, that, hey, I'm going to set that aside. We're going to go get some help after the holidays because we need to work on some problems. Or I need to work on my depression. And the fourth D is destabilization. And I've kind of already talked about that a little bit, because the holidays or Christmas or this season really hits all of those emotional buttons. Because that's the time, again, when a lot of issues come up or are put in our face. Maybe we haven't had the best relationship with our family of origin. Well, now we got to go spend time with them. So now it's going to hit all those buttons. Our husband and our wife, we may not be getting along very well. Now the holidays have come, and it only accentuates that emotional pain, because now we have the holidays and now we're not even getting along. And it kind of spoils a lot of the holiday for us. So destabilization is not uncommon during the holidays. I think the more we begin to work on self-differentiation, self-esteem, a love of self in a healthy way, I don't mean selfish way, a love of self and being a self, the less destabilization happens, and the more future holidays can be better. If you find yourself getting in all kinds of destabilization going on and spiraling and emotional problems and difficulties during the holidays, you really want to plan on getting some help, because you don't have to stay there. You don't have to be that way. You may need to get some help so that your future holidays can be a lot better. And I think one of the points I made in the article was Christmas begins, or the holidays begin, with a healthy you. And they really do. That's when holidays start to turn more enjoyable, more satisfying, more fulfilling, when you have a healthier you. When we don't have a healthy us, then nothing else seems to be very enjoyable. And we trip and fall into potholes, and we find ourselves getting into all kinds of difficulties because we don't have that sense of self that's really important, that makes self-care happen during the holidays. And out of self-care comes an abundance of love and caring and joy. And I think that comes first out of self-care, because it's very hard for me to give to you if I don't know how to give to myself. It really becomes very difficult, and there are lots of traps with that. Whereas if I can give out of the abundance of what I feel inside, that certainly makes the giving a lot easier, a lot deeper, a lot richer, and it makes the holidays more enjoyable. I want to talk about some rules for relating to the family during Christmas or the holiday times. These might be helpful to you in your plan up to the holiday season here. You may want to use the holidays to be assertive with your family, but not confrontive. This is not the time to confront, either with spouse or with family of origin. It's okay to be assertive, and it's okay to declare your own sense of self, that this is what I need or want, but confrontive is not going to be a good plan for the holidays. Remember, no one can meet your unmet childhood needs but you. No one can meet your unmet childhood needs but you. Neither your spouse nor your family of origin. Avoid emotional triangles with others. In other words, you be responsible for your behaviors, thoughts, and emotions. Let others be responsible for their behaviors, thoughts, and emotions. When we get into our family of origin, we find ourselves, lots of triangles can start to come up and push and pull us. Remember, you're responsible for you. Let others be responsible for them. Lower your expectations of your family. Stop hoping they will become the family you always wanted and grieve that loss. Because then you can see your family as they really are. They're human beings. They have their own problems. They have their own issues. They're not this way just to make you miserable. They're this way because that's just the way they are, and that's their issues. And if we can take off that mantle of them needing to make us happy, that can really make a big difference. Learn to forgive for the past. I think forgiveness during the holidays is a great time for a forgiveness theme. We really do need to let go and forgive, and that's not easy. If it's necessary, look elsewhere for your holiday fulfillment besides your family. In other words, if you've got these events that you have to do and they're not all that enjoyable, plan something enjoyable for you that you do look forward to. You may not be able to get out of going to grandma's or get out of, because you just don't feel you can really buck that system. Then go spend a minimal amount of time and show up, stay connected with your family in that way, but then plan something for you. And it may be outside your family or your family of origin. It may be with friends. It may be some activity that you would really enjoy. Plan safe holidays. Put some physical distance between you and your toxic family members. Avoid toxic members if necessary. In other words, if you've got a real toxic family that you're going to visit or whatever, you may not want to stay in their house. Stay in a motel. You don't have to stay with them. You can kind of put some distance between you and them. That way you're staying connected, but you're not in the middle of the toxicity. Work at letting the child play and experience the joy of Christmas or the joy of the holidays. We have a couple little children in the waiting room here today, and I was watching them, and I thought, how wonderful for these little kids. And they were just playing and innocent and having a great time. And during the holidays, I think it really is a time for the inner child in us to play. And if we can make room for that inner child in us to play during the holidays, that can make for a very special time. Don't drift through the holidays waiting for something wonderful to happen. Plan something wonderful. Don't just wait for it to happen. Plan something wonderful. If you're going to make some changes with your family of origin because you want to kind of self-differentiate, in other words, we want to change the schedule a little bit, or we don't want to do this, which has been our family's tradition for the last 30 years, you might let your family know a year in advance. In other words, tell them this year what changes you want to make for next year, rather than just coming and dropping the bomb and saying, okay, we don't want to do that. I don't know why we have to do that. Again, that's confrontive and angry. What you might want to do is, we'll do it this year, but next year our family's going to do this. So it'll be a little different for next year. And just wanted to let everybody know so they can plan for that. I think that's an easing into the changes and easing into the differentiation within the family. I think it goes a little smoother. You still may get some resistance, but at least you've acknowledged that this would be important for them. You're valuing and respecting them while making changes for you. And I think that's very important. How to have the best Christmas, how to have the best holiday. I think it's important that we try to plan a relaxed and loving time with our family and friends. And that takes planning. Have realistic and non-codependent expectations about gifts. In other words, gifts are not everything. People are important, not just gifts. Try to plan a more evenly paced holiday. And again, that takes planning and scheduling. Talk with your spouse. Talk with your family of origin about what you need in terms of that plan. And then you might want to develop some strong personal and family traditions of your own choosing. Something that you like and you do rather than what your parents did or what your grandparents did. Plan some traditions that you want. There was a great book I remember reading many years ago. I believe it's still in print, and I want to recommend it to you. It's entitled Unplug the Christmas Machine, How to Have the Christmas You Always Wanted. And it's by Joe Robinson and Gene Koppock. I would recommend that to you because I always liked the Christmas pledge. And the Christmas pledge was this: believing in the beauty and simplicity of Christmas, I commit myself to the following: to remember those who truly need my gifts, to express my love for my family and friends in more direct ways than presents, to re-educate myself to the spiritual growth of my family or to reconnect with my higher power, to examine my holiday activities in light of the true spirit of Christmas, and to initiate one act of peacemaking within my circle of family and friends. And I always like that pledge at Christmas time. I hope you'll pick up the book and take a look at it. She has some great ideas about making Christmas a wonderful time. I appreciate you listening today. If I can be of any help, my number and email address is on the screen. I hope you have a happy holiday. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.